My name is Diane Marshall. I'm 64 years old from Detroit, Michigan, and I'm about to tell you how my business partner's son, Trevor, thought he could embezzle $200,000 from the accounting firm we'd built over 22 years, not knowing he'd picked the wrong woman to steal from. You see, I'd spent 30 years as a forensic accountant for the IRS before starting Marshall & Associates, specializing in financial fraud detection, which taught me exactly how embezzlers operate and how to destroy their careers permanently. It started 8 months ago when I noticed irregularities in our client trust accounts during my routine quarterly audit. Small discrepancies at first, $3,000 here, $5,000 there, amounts that could be explained by processing errors or timing differences. But my 30 years catching financial criminals had taught me that small discrepancies are often the tip of much larger icebergs. Trevor Williams, my business partner Michael's 32-year-old son, had been working as our senior accountant for 3 years. He was smart, charming, and had passed his CPA exam on the first try. Michael was so proud, constantly talking about how Trevor was going to take over the firm someday and keep it in the family. Diane, "That boy of mine is sharp as a tack," Michael would say during our weekly partner meetings. "He's handling the Henderson Industries account like a seasoned professional. Clients love him, and he's bringing in new business every month." I should have paid more attention to how Trevor was bringing in that new business and why those clients were always paying their fees in cash, requesting immediate processing, and asking minimal questions about our services. The discovery came when Mrs. Patterson, our longest-standing client, called me directly instead of going through Trevor's usual channels. "Ms. Marshall, I'm confused about my quarterly payment," she said. "Trevor told me to make the check payable to M&A Financial Services instead of Marshall & Associates. Is that some kind of new company name?" My blood turned cold. M&A Financial Services wasn't our company name, and I'd never authorized any changes to our business accounts or client payment procedures. That evening, I stayed late at the office and did what I'd trained federal agents to do for 3 decades. I followed the money. What I discovered made my hands shake as I realized the scope of Trevor's betrayal. He'd created a shadow company with a similar name, opened bank accounts using forged business documents, and had been diverting client payments for over 18 months. The Henderson Industries account that Michael was so proud of? Trevor had been stealing their payments and providing substandard bookkeeping services to cover the theft. Over $200,000 had been systematically embezzled from our client trust accounts, with Trevor using sophisticated accounting tricks to hide the missing funds during routine audits. But Trevor made one fatal mistake in his criminal scheme. He forgot that his father's business partner wasn't just some elderly woman who'd gotten lucky in business. I was Diane Marshall, who'd spent 3 decades building cases against financial criminals for the federal government, and I'd never lost a case against an embezzler. That night, I sat in my office looking at 22 years of business records and made a decision that would destroy Trevor's life and career forever. He thought he was stealing from a trusting family friend who wouldn't notice missing money. Instead, he'd committed multiple federal crimes against someone who knew exactly how to catch him and make sure he never worked in finance again. The investigation was about to begin, and only one of us was walking away with a career. Before I tell you how I destroyed Trevor's career, you need to understand what he stole from me and the lifetime of work that firm represented. Marshall & Associates wasn't just a business. It was the culmination of 30 years of federal service and 22 years of building something meaningful with my partner, Michael Williams, Trevor's father. I started at the IRS in 1978 as a junior auditor, fresh out of Wayne State University with an accounting degree. While other young women were starting families and settling into comfortable lives, I was working 60-hour weeks, learning how to catch tax cheats and financial criminals who thought they were too smart to get caught. By 1995, I'd worked my way up to senior criminal investigator, handling complex white-collar cases that other agents couldn't crack. My specialty was following money trails through shell companies, offshore accounts, and sophisticated accounting schemes that criminals used to hide their theft. When I retired from the IRS in 2001, I had a government pension worth $300-400 monthly and a reputation as one of the most thorough financial investigators in the Midwest. But I wasn't ready to retire from meaningful work. I wanted to use my expertise to help honest businesses protect themselves from the kind of criminals I'd been catching for 3 decades. That's when I met Michael Williams at a Detroit Chamber of Commerce networking event. He was a local CPA with a small practice, struggling to grow his business and compete with larger accounting firms. I had the investigative expertise and federal connections that could take his firm to the next level. "Diane, what would it take for you to consider a partnership?" Michael asked during our 3rd meeting. "I have the client base and local reputation. You have the forensic expertise and credibility that could make us the premier accounting firm in Southeast Michigan." We shook hands on a 50-50 partnership that same day. I invested $125,000 from my retirement savings. Michael contributed his existing client base and office equipment, and we founded Marshall & Associates with the goal of providing both traditional accounting services and forensic investigation expertise to Detroit's business community. Over 22 years, we grew from a 2-person operation to a firm with 12 employees, serving over 300 clients and generating $1.8 million annually. I handled the forensic accounting, fraud prevention, and IRS compliance work, while Michael managed traditional bookkeeping, tax preparation, and client relations. But our success wasn't just professional. Michael and I became genuine friends and trusted partners. When his wife died of breast cancer in 2015, I was the one who sat with him in the hospital, managed the firm during his grief, and helped him navigate the insurance and estate issues. When I had my hip replacement in 2019, Michael covered all my client meetings and made sure our business operated smoothly during my recovery. We'd built more than a successful firm. We'd created a family business that we planned to pass to the next generation. When Trevor graduated from Michigan State with his accounting degree in 2018, hiring him felt like the natural next step in our firm's evolution. "This boy is going to carry on what we've built," Michael told me proudly when Trevor passed his CPA exam. "He's got the brains, the education, and the family values to take this firm into the future." I welcomed Trevor with open arms, training him personally in our client procedures, sharing my forensic accounting expertise, and treating him like the son I'd never had. Over 3 years, I taught him everything I'd learned in 30 years of federal investigation: how to spot financial irregularities, how to trace money through complex transactions, and how to build airtight cases against financial criminals. Every skill I taught Trevor to protect our clients, he was secretly using to steal from us. The $200,000 he embezzled wasn't just money. It was the product of 22 years of partnership, trust, and shared dreams about our firm's future. Every dollar represented client relationships we'd built through honest work, a reputation we'd earned through ethical service, and financial security we'd planned for our retirement years. But Trevor's theft went beyond money. He'd violated the trust of a woman who'd treated him like family, stolen from the business his father and I had sacrificed to build, and used the forensic accounting skills I'd taught him to commit the exact crimes I'd spent my career preventing. That was Trevor's choice. Now he was about to learn what happened when you stole from someone who'd spent 30 years at the IRS learning exactly how to destroy financial criminals and make sure they never worked in finance again. What I discovered next revealed that Trevor's embezzlement wasn't opportunistic theft by a young man in financial trouble. It was a sophisticated criminal enterprise he'd been operating for over 18 months. using my own forensic accounting training to cover his tracks and expand his operations. The morning after Mrs. Patterson's phone call, I arrived at the office 2 hours early and did what any former IRS investigator would do when facing internal theft. I activated the skills that had made me legendary in federal law enforcement. If Trevor was embezzling from our firm, there would be a complete financial trail, and I was going to trace every stolen dollar. My first step was securing our computer systems and financial records before Trevor could destroy evidence. I contacted Marcus Chen, a computer forensics expert who'd worked with me on dozens of IRS cases, and had him create mirror images of our servers, email accounts, and financial databases. Diane, whoever did this knew exactly how your accounting systems work, Marcus reported after his initial analysis. They've been manipulating transaction dates, creating false client records, and routing payments through accounts that don't show up in your standard reports. Within 48 hours, Marcus had uncovered evidence that made my worst suspicions look conservative. Trevor hadn't just been stealing client payments, he'd been running a complete shadow operation, using our firm's reputation and my forensic expertise. Your boy has been offering expedited bookkeeping services to cash-heavy businesses like restaurants, car dealerships, and construction companies, Marcus continued. He charges premium rates for same-day processing, accepts payments in cash, and provides minimal documentation. Classic money laundering setup. The computer forensics revealed that Trevor had been using our firm's credentials to provide bookkeeping services to businesses that needed their financial records cleaned quickly and quietly. He'd charge $15,000 to $25,000 per engagement, process the work outside our normal systems, and pocket the entire fee while using our business, license, and professional insurance. But the most damaging discovery was how Trevor had been covering his tracks, using the exact techniques I'd taught him during his training. He's been creating false client accounts to balance the books, Marcus explained, showing me printed transaction records. When he steals $10,000 from client A, he creates a fake payment from client B to cover the shortfall. When that payment comes due, he creates another fake client to cover client B. It's a classic Ponzi scheme using your own client base. Trevor had been systematically robbing our established clients to fund his illegal side business, all while maintaining the appearance of a growing, profitable firm that was attracting new business. That afternoon, I made the most painful phone call of my professional life. I called Michael at home and asked him to meet me at the office immediately for an emergency partner meeting. Michael, we need to discuss Trevor's work performance and some irregularities I've discovered in our client accounts. When Michael arrived, I could see the stress in his face. He knew something was seriously wrong, but I don't think he could have imagined the scope of his son's betrayal. Michael, I'm going to show you evidence that Trevor has been embezzling from our firm and using our business credentials to operate an illegal money laundering service. For the next 2 hours, I laid out the computer forensics evidence with the precision I'd used in federal courtrooms. Trevor's shadow company, the forged business documents, the manipulated client accounts, and the systematic theft of $200,000 from our trust funds. Michael's face went through every emotion: disbelief, recognition, anger, and finally, devastation. Diane, you're telling me my son has been stealing from us for over a year? Using the skills you taught him? Michael, your son has been operating a criminal enterprise using our firm's reputation. He's not just stealing money. He's providing money laundering services to businesses that need their books cleaned quickly. We could lose our licenses, face federal charges, and see our entire firm shut down because of his criminal activity. That evening, Michael and I made the decision that would save our firm and destroy Trevor's life. We were going to cooperate fully with federal authorities, provide complete documentation of Trevor's crimes, and make sure he faced the maximum legal consequences for stealing from us. Diane, I know what this means, Michael said quietly. Trevor is my son, but what he's done to our firm, to our clients, to you, it's unforgivable. We have to protect the business we've spent 22 years building. Trevor thought he was dealing with an older woman who'd trust him because of his family connection and wouldn't have the expertise to catch sophisticated embezzlement. Instead, he'd stolen from a former IRS criminal investigator who'd spent 3 decades learning exactly how to build federal cases against financial criminals. The investigation was about to become a prosecution, and Trevor's career in finance was about to end permanently. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done since retiring from the IRS 15 years earlier. I walked into the Detroit field office of the FBI Economic Crimes Division like I was reporting for the most important case of my career. The skills that had made me a legendary federal investigator were about to destroy the criminal who'd stolen from my family. Business. Special Agent Patricia Rodriguez had worked with me on dozens of financial fraud cases during my final years at the IRS. When her secretary announced me, Patricia came out personally with the respect accorded to veteran federal investigators. Diane Marshall, what brings the legendary financial crimes hunter back to active duty? Patricia, I need to report multiple federal crimes involving embezzlement, money laundering, and wire fraud. And this time, it's personal. For the next 3 hours, I laid out Trevor's criminal enterprise with the systematic precision I'd perfected over 30 years of building federal cases. Marcus Chen's computer forensics, the shadow company documentation, and client transaction records created an airtight prosecution framework. Diane, this is textbook money laundering combined with embezzlement, Patricia said, reviewing my evidence files. Your partner's son isn't just facing theft charges. Operating an unlicensed financial services business and laundering money for cash-heavy businesses makes this racketeering. Patricia, I want this prosecution to destroy his career permanently. I want every professional license revoked, every financial certification canceled, and a federal conviction that follows him for life. That afternoon, Patricia coordinated with the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs to begin immediate suspension proceedings against Trevor's CPA license. Under state law, financial crimes involving client funds triggered automatic professional license suspension pending criminal resolution. But criminal prosecution was only the foundation of my strategy. I wanted Trevor to lose everything he'd built using our firm's reputation and the expertise I'd taught him. My next call was to the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the professional organization that governed CPA ethics nationwide. I filed formal complaints documenting Trevor's embezzlement, money laundering, and violation of professional accounting standards. Ms. Marshall, members convicted of financial crimes face permanent expulsion from AICPA and lifetime prohibition from practicing public accounting, the ethics investigator explained. We'll be coordinating with federal prosecutors to ensure appropriate professional consequences. I also contacted the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, which maintained the database used by all financial employers to screen job candidates. Trevor's criminal charges would be permanently listed in FINRA's broker check system, making him unemployable in any financial services capacity. The federal investigation expanded rapidly when FBI agents discovered Trevor's client base included businesses under investigation for tax evasion and money laundering. His expedited bookkeeping services had been helping criminals clean dirty money, making him a key witness in multiple ongoing federal cases. Mrs. Marshall, your partner's son was providing financial services to organized crime figures, Agent Rodriguez reported during one of our coordination meetings. His client list reads like a federal task force target list: illegal gambling operations, drug money laundering, and construction bid rigging schemes. Within 2 weeks, Trevor was arrested at our office during normal business hours, handcuffed in front of clients and employees, and charged with embezzlement. wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. The local news coverage was devastating to his reputation and future career prospects. Prominent Detroit CPA charged in $200,000 embezzlement scheme ran as the lead story on Channel 4, with footage of Trevor being led away in handcuffs from the accounting firm that bore his victim's name. But the most satisfying justice came from the professional consequences. Trevor's CPA license was permanently revoked. His name was added to state and federal databases of individuals prohibited from working in financial services, and his conviction would follow him to any future employer. The plea negotiations revealed the scope of Trevor's desperation. Facing 25 years in federal prison, he agreed to plead guilty to all charges, pay complete restitution plus penalties, and cooperate with ongoing investigations of his criminal clients. Mrs. Marshall, the defendant wants to make a deal, federal prosecutor James Wilson reported. He's offering full cooperation, a public apology, and enhanced restitution in exchange for reduced sentencing. Mr. Wilson, Trevor Williams can make all the deals he wants with federal prosecutors. But there's no deal that will restore his career, his professional licenses, or his ability to work in finance again. Some consequences are permanent. The federal sentencing was scheduled for 6 months later, but Trevor's career destruction was already complete. He'd never work as an accountant, financial advisor, or in any position involving money management again. Trevor thought he was stealing from an elderly woman who'd trust him because of family connections. Instead, he'd committed federal crimes against a retired IRS investigator who'd spent 30 years learning exactly how to destroy financial criminals permanently. The final destruction of Trevor's life unfolded exactly as federal law enforcement intended, with systematic precision that left him financially devastated, professionally ruined, and permanently marked as a criminal who could never be trusted with other people's money again. The federal sentencing came 8 months after his arrest. 5 years in federal prison, complete restitution of $200,000 plus $75,000 in penalties and interest, and permanent prohibition from working in any financial capacity. Judge Trevor Williams made clear that financial professionals who betrayed client trust deserved maximum consequences under federal law. The defendant used sophisticated accounting knowledge to steal from the very firm that had trained and trusted him, Judge Williams stated during sentencing. This represents the most serious breach of fiduciary duty, using professional expertise to commit the exact crimes that expertise was supposed to prevent. But the criminal conviction was only the beginning of Trevor's permanent destruction. The professional licensing consequences followed him like a scarlet letter that would mark him for life. The Michigan Department of Licensing permanently revoked his CPA license and placed him on the state's registry of individuals prohibited from providing financial services. The American Institute of Certified Public Accountants expelled him permanently and added his name to their national database of ethics violators. Most devastatingly, FINRA's broker check system now permanently listed Trevor's conviction, making him unemployable by any legitimate financial services company. Every background check for the rest of his life would show his federal conviction for embezzlement and money laundering. The community response throughout Detroit's professional community was swift and decisive. Word spread quickly that Trevor Williams had embezzled from the accounting firm where his own father was a partner, stealing from the woman who'd trained him like a son. That young man brought shame on his entire family, Sister Johnson told me after Sunday service at New Bethel Baptist Church. Stealing from Miss Diane, who treated him like her own child. That's the kind of sin that follows you to the grave. The Detroit Free Press ran a comprehensive investigation titled, "From CPA to Con Man, How Professional Trust Became Criminal Enterprise," documenting Trevor's fall from respected accountant to convicted felon. The article ensured his criminal conviction became part of Detroit's business community knowledge. But I wasn't finished with my justice yet. I wanted Trevor to understand the complete scope of what he'd lost through his criminal choices and what his betrayal had cost his father. 6 months after his sentencing, Michael made the most painful decision of his life. He retired early from the firm we'd built together, unable to face the daily reminder of his son's betrayal of our partnership. "Diane, I can't stay," Michael told me during our final partner meeting. "Every day I walk into this office, I see what Trevor destroyed. 22 years of friendship, trust, and shared dreams, all gone because my son chose to be a thief." Michael sold his partnership interest back to me for $400,000, allowing him to retire comfortably, but ending the family business legacy he'd hoped to pass to Trevor. The firm became solely mine, and I renamed it Marshall Forensic Accounting to reflect our new focus on fraud prevention and investigation. Today, I'm 66 years old, running a successful forensic accounting practice that helps businesses protect themselves from the exact crimes Trevor committed against us. The restitution money and insurance recovery allowed me to expand our fraud detection services and hire additional investigators. I used part of the recovered funds to establish the Michael Williams Scholarship for ethical accounting at Wayne State University, providing annual scholarships to students who demonstrate both financial need and commitment to professional ethics. Every scholarship recipient learns about Trevor's case as an example of how quickly professional success can be destroyed by criminal choices. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty about destroying Michael's son so completely, if family loyalty should have meant showing mercy. But I sleep peacefully every night knowing I taught Trevor the most important lesson of his criminal life. When you steal from people who trusted you, you lose everything worth having. Trevor thought he'd found the perfect victim in his father's business partner, an elderly woman who'd train him, trust him, and never suspect him of sophisticated financial crimes. Instead, he learned that some women spent their careers perfecting techniques for catching embezzlers and making sure they never steal again. The last thing I want to say is this: protect your business, trust your professional instincts, and never assume that family connections mean someone won't betray you for money. When trusted employees become thieves, justice isn't personal. It's exactly what they deserve. Because when people use your expertise to commit crimes against you, the only response is to use that same expertise to make sure they never hurt anyone else again. Thank you for listening to today's story from Granny Story Corner. Life teaches us lessons in the most unexpected ways, doesn't it? If this story touched your heart, please subscribe for more real-life tales that remind us of our shared humanity. Until next time, may your own story be filled with wisdom and love.